Welcome to the Great Debaters Contest. I am Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Nyambok.
And Africa is a continent that has a very large youth bulge. So today we are asking if the youth population of this continent is our biggest threat.
Proposing the motion, we have first-timers to the debate, Light Academy, who have told their opponents to have the best points up at hand. Otherwise, they're going to take this debate. And for Kianyaga boys, who are no stranger to the debate, have said, let us expect the unexpected. So may the debates begin.
The motion this week is, Africa's growing youth bulge is the greatest threat to the continent. Proposing the motion, Light Academy. Opposing the motion, Kianyaga High School.
Each contestant has 3 minutes to make their submissions. The audience also gets a chance to put their questions to each team. Each side will have an additional 1 minute to make a final statement. The judge's decision is final. The winning school will get an ICT chill-out zone with the widescreen TV, computers, webcams, and internet connection. The teacher from the winning school gets 100,000 shillings courtesy of Chase Bank. The winning students each get a tablet courtesy of Safaricom, a gift hamper from Unilever, and a gift hamper from mimi.co.ke. And together, they all win the title, The Great Debaters. May the best school win.
First proposer, you have 3 minutes. You may begin.
I am Ahmed Mohamed Abdullahi from Light Academy Boys Secondary School, standing firm to propose the motion that says Africa's growing youth bulge is the greatest threat to the continent. To begin with, youth bulge is demographically a situation where the disproportionate percentage of a certain region is less than the age of 30 years. To begin with the facts that Africa is a host to 200 million youths, and the number is expected to double by the year 2045, according to the African Economic Outlook. It's very disappointing to know that 60% of those youth is unemployed, according to the World Bank report of 2010, and the median age of the continent is 29.2, as opposed to Europe, where the median age is 41. Demerits, before I go to the demerits of having a large number of youths in a continent, there are 3 characteristics which the youths have in general that make them pose the greatest threat to the continent. The first one is that youths still have their ecological and environmental footprints. This is the stage where they are said to have left the bracket of childhood and are yet to be pronounced mature. They also have an uncontrollable ambition and vision which may end up causing them harm, as they always say, let's reach the last wall. I tell them that you may end up in hell before reaching there. The last characteristic that the youths have is that they are naive and vulnerable to propaganda, which most of those who wish to achieve their own goals make use of to reach or achieve their own interests. The youth energy is used to serve interests of special or private people. The demerits of having a large number of youth in a continent include the fact that youths are used as an act of violence, as a tool to bring in political and civil unrest, as we have experienced in Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Sudan, Nigeria, Uganda, DRC Congo, examples of many that I can never exhaust. The youths form more than 65% in Egypt, and that was one of the major causes of the uprising that led to the decline of Egypt as one of the most powerful nations economically and politically. In also Nigeria, there is more than 71% of the population who are between the age of 15 to 29, and this has led to the religion conflicts and also ethnic clashes that is forming the stumble block against their development. Thanks.
The opposing team, you may give us your opening remarks. You have 3 minutes.
Well, I'm here to oppose the motion that states that Africa's growing youth bulge is the greatest threat to the continent. Well, first, I tend to disagree. The term threat means a misunderstood opportunity. I want first to ensure that you know what really causes threat to Africa. It is not about the numbers of the youth. One, we have poor political leadership. Well, do we blame this on the youth? How many youth do you know who are presidents? How many of them do you know are prime ministers and the cabinet secretaries in this African continent? Do you know of the religious activities that are going on in Egypt, in the Central African Republic, and in Uganda? Here are brothers. Are these being caused by the youth? Ask yourself these questions. In Africa today, we have a large number of youth. Instead of looking at it as a threat, we should look at it as an advantage to us. Because one thing, in the best endowed age, we have the youths. People who are endowed technologically. According to the statistics, we have the minimum age or the maximum age of anyone in Africa to access the resources technologically being 18 years. This means that if you have a cake, you don't eat a cake that you don't have. In Africa today, the 18-year age bracket to access any technological item means that if anything was to improve technologically in Africa, we needed to have the youths improving it. Well, in Eastern Asia, I remember in the year 1950, we had the absorption of the youths in the economy, and this improved their GDP by 6% each year. Well, proving it in Africa, we can say that the youth bulge should not be a disadvantage or a threat to us. It should be an advantage to us, where we should enroll the youth in the economy and get the best of the economy. If Eastern Asia was able to improve 8 by 6%, in Africa we can do better with the amount of youths or the numbers of youths that we have in Africa. Well, if you have 12 chicken, you can maybe get 8 eggs. And if you have 1,000 chicken, there's a possibility that you could get 500 eggs. So, in Africa, if we were to solve anything, the problems that are facing us, if we have a small number of youths, we will have few number of resources to endow and solve these problems. But if we have a large number of youths, we are going to have more answers to our problems in Africa. I hope that is what each and every one of us here wishes for. In Africa, to experience a change, as Nkosazana Zuma said in the Ethiopia Addis Ababa meeting with all the presidents, said that if there was a change to be experienced in Africa, we had to change the age. And the age that was going to take up is the youth. We are the youth, and we should take it up. Thank you.
Second proposer, you may give your rebuttal. You have 3 minutes.
First of all, before I begin my points, I'd like to address some of the issues that my fellow opponent here addressed. You said that if one had 1,000 chicken, it is easy to get 500 eggs. But let me ask you, if those chicken are not well-fed, well-bred, how are you supposed to get the eggs that you so wish? He also said that Egypt is a country that what's going on is not being done by the youth. What about the revolution that happened in Egypt not so long ago? Was that by the old people? I think not. On to my points. First of all, I believe that the youth are a driving force to any economic growth or growing nation. They are good. But the problems arise when those youth start facing problems like unemployment. They are poverty-stricken. They lack the social services and basic needs which they need to survive. There becomes a problem, because when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And that's the mindset of most of the youth of today, leading to things like radicalism and extreme ideologies. One such fine example is the case of Liberia. The civil war that went there during 1889 and 1996 was fueled by the youth, because the youth were fighting to become part of the national system that had marginalized against them. They were trying to become something in that country or in that government that had done so much to suppress them and put them under the ground. Radicalism is something that is born from people when people are suppressed. And you cannot suppress the youth in this country and in this continent in general. I'd also like to state, under extreme ideologies, terrorism is also a very key factor. Most terrorists are youth. Heavens be the day when an old man will get 80 rounds of ammunition and blaze the hallways of a downtown mall. Wouldn't you agree? Again, the youth are the most indoctrinated into these societies and cults, as by many studies have shown. Again, there's competition for resources, unnecessary competition, in fact. Africa has resources, yes, but when you have too many people in a country and they are all fighting for that same thing, it increases the chances of war, civil unrest, and so many other problems. So many people are struggling to get education and various other things. Thank you for your time. And I'd like to state that the youth are more like a pendulum, but they're inclined towards the dark side. Please think twice. Thank you.
Opposing side, you have 3 minutes to give your rebuttal as well.
First and foremost, let me begin by asking this question to my fellow colleague. Before you're suppressed, this means that somebody is above you, for he or she to suppress you. You did mention that the youths, for them to become radicals, they were suppressed. Then I asked you, who were those suppressing them, if not the leaders? And I believe the leaders were not the youth. That is to you. Let me begin. Before I begin, let's take a walk through history, shall we? Now, in the early 19th century, we did see that the slaves comprised 90% to 100% of them were the youths. They were taken to other countries, and its fact, it was stalling of development projects in Africa. Right now, if the youths remained, we would have become one of the leading continents in Africa. Now, that was something that happened early in the 19th century. If that happened in that time frame, now, if they remained here, where will Africa be? You should look at it as an advantage for us to be in large numbers, but not in few numbers. Our youths were taken abroad, yes? Now, the effect has been felt throughout history. You should look at this point again and reconsider your thoughts. Now, on to my first point. Increase in market demand. The youth form 65% of people who take up most of what we produce. The youths are the buyers. The youths are also the sellers. For example, in future I want to become a leading businessman. For me, if I want to succeed, I need somebody to become a customer. And I believe if I begin it, you'll be one of my customers. I'll lend you for free. Now, if I want to begin a company, I have to have the customers. And these youths that are bulging in Africa are the consumers that we need. An example is for Vimal Shah. Vimal Shah, as we know him, he's a CEO of Bidco company. For him, if it were not for the youth that are present here, he could not have the labor force. He could not have the competition he needed so as to develop. And also, he could not have the market to sell his wares. Then he will still be at the ground level. There, we do need to congratulate our youths. We do need to congratulate our youths for their large numbers because this is an opportunity to us. It is a market opportunity. Once Vimal Shah gets his share from the youth, the government also takes tax from him. In the end, it's a win-win situation for all of us. So you see, we are bringing Africa up. Our huge numbers are not a disadvantage, but only, as my colleague said, a misunderstood opportunity. And on to my other point is technical advancement. This I'll summarize by what his Deputy President Ruto said. He has increased the youth budget from 50 million to 18 billion. You do the math. I will have, but I don't have a calculator. Thank you.
We have the questions now. So may we have 2 for the proposers?
I'm Grace Sender from the Maryhill Girls High School. I have a question to the proposers. Have you considered, you talked about insecurity which is caused by the youth. Have you considered the causes of this insecurity? You get that the youths go to do crimes because they don't have jobs. So I'd like you to tell us the other causes which make the youths to go to the streets to do the crimes. Thank you.
I'm Mika from Isle School, and my question goes to the first proposers. You say that the youth energy is used to develop interest. Can you have an elaborated sufficient information, a sufficient explanation on that, I mean?
May we have 2 questions for the opposers?
My name is Winnie from the Kenya High School. An issue was raised that majority of the youths are unemployed. You also said that, it's also said that, and it's known that about 50% of the country live under $1 a day. What's massing numbers of the youth if they don't have the purchasing power? So where is the economic power coming in?
My name is Joy Seni from Precious Blood Reducer. My question is, okay, fine, I'll start with a saying that says you can take a cow to the stream to drink water, but you cannot force it to drink. So you fight for the youth so passionately and vehemently, but what should you do if this same youth you're fighting for refuse to take up responsibility?
May we have the 3rd speaker from the proposing side to take the stage?
Mohammed Abdullahi, representing Light Academy. Insecurity fueled by youth. They lack jobs. Isn't that what the same thing that we're talking about? They lack jobs. There are too many. The job opportunities are few. Then what happens? They end up in crime. You've answered yourself. They're taken to serve the interest. Need I mention them? Charles Taylor, Joseph Kony, the Lord's Resistant Army. If you need more, come later. You ask by that extremism and radicalism is fueled by oppression. Boko Haram, who oppresses them? Al-Shabaab, who oppresses them? Give us the answers. We require them. And then you also talked of that slavery. People were channeled from Kenya to Americas to go work there. History is repeating itself. They are now being channeled as professionals, brain drain, to go still work there. You never know. You also talked of, I can open a business and we will end up being your first customers. That was lovely. But will you end up opening a business? How do you come up with the business idea yet you lack the education? This youth, the same people that lack, the schools are few. We are too many, not able. Not all of us get the opportunities. Plus, the prices are too expensive. Yet, we believe that we can come up with entrepreneurial ideas to come up with businesses so that Light Academy students will end up your first customers. And then, you also talked of the Honorable William Ruto increasing the money to 18 billion. But by the day, the number of those competing for the resources increase. What difference is it making? Yes, I'm increasing. Here too, they're increasing. What difference am I making? And on to my points. Unemployment. 60% of youths in Africa are unemployed. It's no longer unemployment, it's a catastrophe. 78 million population in Ethiopia. Every year, 2 million extra people join the workforce. Yet, no more jobs are created. Secondly, they lack liberal democracy. They never give the leaders the chance to lead. Take the good example of Egypt. A revolution, a dictator was overthrown, a democratically elected president was put into power. But less than 6 months in rule, the youth are made to believe that he's not fit. Propaganda. And then, up to date, we don't know his whereabouts. What are the results? A general, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, rises up to make us believe, the same youth, that we overthrew this democratically elected leader, that he can lead us. Gang violence, propaganda, indoctrination, conscripts, Lord Resistance Army. In Nigeria, the city of Lagos, 273 civilians and 84 policemen died in the year 2011-2012 as a result of increased gang violence. In conclusion, there is a cold war between realities and imaginations. Thank you.
Opposers, you have 3 minutes to respond to the audience.
Greetings, I'm McLaughlin Jaram from Kianyaga High School, ready to oppose the motions that Africans' youth are not a threat in African continent. So ironical, youth fighting against their super youth. To the first question about the Boko Haram and education in Africa. The first thing I would like to ask you is, have you witnessed any of the youths in the ICC chambers recently? Food for thought. And secondly, unemployment. 60% of African youth are unemployment. But is this radical? This is not radical. As we said, where should you get work if you are not given any responsibility and any work to take? We are not to be blamed. I'm a youth and you are a youth. My first point, an example of East Asia, as we had, in 1960 to 1995, Asia was able to raise its GDP to 6% every year. In 25 years, translating it to 150%, an increment. This makes us make sure that even we Africans, we are not a sore throat in the world. We can achieve the same as we achieved the rest of the continent. Only if you limit yourself as a youth, we don't have to be blamed for your failures. Secondly, about 10 million people in African floods the world market each and every year. With this, the youth are able to raise their dependent ratio every year to increase their capital per income. And thirdly, youth have brought glory and success to the African continent. Each and every day, as a youth, I have to wake up early in the morning, so as you do, at least to make a difference in our continent. But the question is it our academic prosperity, or it is the world and Africa and the nations we are going to inherit? As for me, I want my children and my wife to have the better life, not of corrupt leaders, insecurity, as we said, but I want my kids one day and your kids to join hands and sing the always song, "We Africans who can." And lastly, it has come a time for development economists to look beyond the dire facts of African youth's frustration if they have to uplift the economic development. For we, the youths, we are the seeds of tomorrow. And we said, the flowers of tomorrow are seeing the seeds of today. So whom are you if you are not the seeds of today? Whom are you? Everyone here has a duty as youths. No matter how much we fight ourselves, youths versus youths, but we have to stand on our own ground. Responsibility is not a matter of a youth. I know so many youths who have made it. And so, this is Africa, we are the youths. Let's sing, and if they can't sing, let them hear our tune. Thank you.
Closing remarks now from the proposing team. You have a minute.
Thank you very much. It's as though my opponents, my worthy opponents, have not understood the motion. We are not talking about the current youth, we are talking about the growing youth. I am satisfied of a worldview that does not ask me to deny one's standpoint or point of view. But it's only fair for me, and at the same time unfortunate, to stand here and say some are very vague. What do I mean by this? He talked of China's GDP growing. We do not look only at the growth. There are other factors. Those are people in a different whole continent. We should look at more factors. What about if we adapt this? Could it be possible the same? Argentina, due to its almost collapsing economy, adapted a blueprint on how to better the economy. But a European country, Bulgaria, tried it. Do you want to hear what happened? It failed, dramatically failed. And then, in conclusion, the growing youth bulge in Africa is a ticking time bomb. At a time when the African continent should be focusing on economic development, developing democracy and justice and achieve peace, the youth number should not be a stumbling block and set us back from reaching the destiny of the African continent that we all treasure and desire. An Afrikaner by blood. Thank you.
Opposing team, you have a minute to give your closing statement.
I don't know what he understands about the growing youth bulge. The word growing it is in English. Maybe in my study in English, I found that it is perfect continuous, meaning it is now and even in the future. So when you refer that we are saying that it is of the future, I don't know what you're saying. Well, I don't want Africa to be a drainage. I want to refer to the words of J.F. Kennedy when he said that a home, or a place or an area or a society that does not uphold the homage of the youth, it is like a drainage. Africa, we don't want to become a drainage. The youth bulge, I pray that it continues in order we can have an Africa that will not be taking in that and taking that out. They will be taking in that and bringing it out as something that is good. It has come time that the old bananas are now old. And I, Daniel Geturo, from Kianyaga High School, I am a new sucker as a youth. You are the suckers. Let us enjoy our youth. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Light Academy, you lived to your promise that you will bring light to us today. And with Kianyaga as well, thank you so much for the good debate. Ahmed, good use of current examples. You're very confident. You're a good speaker. Salif, good cross-examination. You're very confident and composed. Your mode of delivery and coherency is a plus as well. I can listen to you. Your mastery of language as well is positive. I mean, you come here and you're outspoken. Mohammed, wow, you did well. You answered your questions, then you cross-examined, then you gave points, then you use current examples. You're very passionate. You're convinced of what you're saying. You're simply excellent.
This debate actually, the motion favored Kianyaga High School. You should have, come out a little stronger just to convince us that that growing bulge is not the greatest threat to the continent. However, having said that, I still feel that you did very well in putting forth your opposing views to the motion. To the two Daniels, good job, great debaters there. To Jarangi again, I love your calmness, and one of the things that I usually say is that when you're coming to such a motion, you don't know who you're going to be coming after. You don't need to be as strong as they are, as long as you have your unique style and you can do, justice to the motion. So very good job to Kianyaga High School.
Light Academy, Kianyaga High, thank you for bringing life back to the house. Nonetheless, we need to see teamwork. If all the three speakers are good, then a team is bound to win. But if at all one speaker is the only savior for the team, then there's a problem. So when you go back to your schools, try and work on your debating skills. Look at your weak areas so that next time when we come, whichever team will proceed, so that next time when we come, we are stronger than we were today.
The judges awarded Kianyaga High School with 67%. Give them a round of applause. And not on a light note, the judges awarded Light Academy Boys School 75%. They are our winners for the debate.
Hearty congratulations to both teams for the wonderful debate, and we hope that they do better as they grow in this debate. From all of us, thank you so much for staying with us on the Great Debaters Contest. I am Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Yombok.
The winning school will get an ICT chill-out zone with the widescreen TV, computers, webcams, and internet connection. The teacher from the winning school gets 100,000 shillings courtesy of Chase Bank. The winning students each get a tablet courtesy of Safaricom, a gift hamper from Unilever, and a gift hamper from mimi.co.ke. And together, they all win the title, The Great Debaters. May the best school win.